Hey, what's up? Back with another manga spotlight video. Today, another 3 of my recent reads. So we've got a manga by Mitsuhiko Yoshida, we've got a Keizo Miyanishi manga, which I haven't done for a while, and a manga by Sakabashira Imiri. So we'll just get right into it. The first one that we have here is a manga called The Day My Feet Reached the Pedals by Mitsuhiko Yoshida. And so he was born in 1946, and he started off with manga, then he moved into doing a lot of posters for theater and historical fiction novels. And apparently, I don't know how recently updated this info was. The most recent thing I saw was that he had a studio that teaches art to children. So in this book here, we've got a couple of different stories that came from all these different magazines here, like Garo, June, Aitsu, and all of that. It actually contains his Garo debut story, which is called Boxer. But this one overall, I think, was a decent short story collection. I really like the first one here. So the first story is called Furiko's Runaway, and it's the color story where Furiko, this housewife, pretty much lives with a controlling husband, and he forbids her from drawing and no, not drawing, sorry. He doesn't like her watching the TV. And so I've showed this off in a manga haul before, but finally got around to reading it. But yeah, whenever she is at home, she does things to pass the time, but the TV for some reason is something that her husband hates her looking at. And so if I'll skip over to end here, this is where he gets angry and actually gets violent and stabs the TV, which starts bleeding. And so it gets a bit more violent, but essentially it's a pretty sad story, and we have a couple of stories that are in a similar vein in this book here, but I was thinking, maybe the TV was like the connection to the outside world, a symbol of freedom, and he is just restrictive and doesn't let her do anything. So that was the first story there. And the second story we have is the debut Garo story. It was debuted in 1975 August, where it's called Boxer. And this one was actually quite a funny one. It's following this boxer, like watching him do his jabs and all that type of stuff. But as we go on, the more he boxes, we find out that he's actually being operated on. He's in the middle of a surgery and he's just spazzing out during a surgery. So that was pretty good, and I loved these little stars beating him in this panel. Very satisfying, actually. Over here, so that was great. So a lot of other short stories in here as well that were like interesting. I don't know if I fully liked them. This one, for example, was called Zoom Back, where a grandpa here, he suffocates from eating fake food. Like this is like display food. It's not real. That was interesting. And the titular story, I couldn't really make sense of it at all. Something about a guy selling lemonade, this guy over here, who meets up with a boy and teaches him how to, like, I don't know, be free, I guess. Bit tough for me to understand. And I've also got to skip a couple of different parts of the book because of the nudity. So let's go to, let's see here. Just trying to find something. This one actually, this is a story that is titled, what is it called again? Maria of the Toilets, an adult kamishibai. And so it's actually written by Shuji Terayama, who I believe is a playwright that was involved with the Angura, or underground theater movement in Japan. So the story was written by him, and the art was done by Yoshida. So this is what it looks like here. In the Kamishibai style, we've got giant pictures and we've got the little dialogue at the bottom. But what this is essentially is Maria is, it's about Maria, who is a prostitute, and essentially her story of abandonment. So another sad story where the environment in which she grew up in and what she has to deal with is very, very dark and sad. But interesting that we had a story by Terayama in here, which was, I still don't know too much about. We've got another story called Sandy Beach Games, where it's about a guy, no, not Sandy Beach Games, Photographed Virtual, about a guy who finds a mermaid on the beach, but he doesn't tell anyone about it. What else do we have? We've got a story where, I think I remember this one. This one is called Mysterious Vacation, where our main character Anna, she's visiting her sister when she's ambushed by this magician, and she tries to she has to escape. Here it is. Just a lot of wacky stuff happening as well. And out of the other things I can show, probably just this last story about like a pinhole effect from my memory. Maybe it was, no, there were two stories about pinholes. So I'm just trying to figure out where it was. Either way, this art's pretty cool. You've got like a little shonen action scene there. But the last two stories, one of them is about a pinhole effect, seeing a pinhole effect, and the last story is about this guy who sees a factory through the pinhole effect again, and oops, we've got, here it is, no, here it is, yeah. So the pinhole, he sees this factory, and I guess he gets infatuated with it, where when people come to find out where he is, he needs to pay rent. We see a sketched image on a wall and a little after image of the guy getting sucked in to the wall. And yeah, this is the afterward with some images. Yeah, so that was The Day My Feet Reached the Pedals by Mitsuhiko Yoshida. So, decent one. I think I still have another short story collection called The Endless Puzzle that I still haven't read yet. So as far as I know, Yoshida has done a couple, maybe 3 or 4 manga, so we'll still have to look out for those. He has also done a Garo cover as well, which is pretty cool too. But yeah, that was the first manga for today. Let's move on to the second one. This one is called Shonen Jidai, or Boyhood, by Miyanishi Keizo. And so this one I will have to censor a lot of things because, you know, if you know Miyanishi, there's a lot of nudity everywhere. But some of the background to this book, so you might be able to see here, there's some chapters which are different colored pages. So in this book, there are 3 parts or 3 stories that were done by Miyanishi very early on, back in 72. This was after he had a 2-year apprenticeship with Mori Masaki. And so Mori Masaki was is a manga artist, screenwriter, and director. They had contributed to Kimba the White Lion, the anime for that. They did a couple of other things, but the reason why it's important is because if you want to search up Masaki, you'll see that some of the art in this story is quite similar to it, because, you know, he had an apprenticeship under Masaki, so you can see the influences of his heart going into Miyanishi's own work. So it's very early works of Miyanishi, which is pretty cool. So here's the inside, just white, and here are the set of stories. So this is chapter 1, chapter 2, and 3 of like the Boyhood series, and everything else are like separate stories. So anything in the white, like this, these white pages are part of the Boyhood series. And so it's I don't know if I liked these stories. They're very, you can see that he was very early in his career as an illustrator and manga artist. Well, the illustrations are amazing, definitely with the backgrounds. But when I flip over, you'll notice that the character designs of all the characters here are very different to maybe some of the Miyanishi that you are familiar with. So if you look here, some of the facial proportions are a bit skewed, and they do reflect Masaki's artwork a lot. So this first story is called Beyond the Ring of Leaves. It's about a mother who's a widow. She's living with her son, and I guess she seems to be dating someone for another man for 3 years, but I'm not sure if she's happy or not. Here's the son here, who's sick. And so I'm not too sure, but I think at the end she makes a decision to maybe accept his proposal to be married, and I need to censor that. So that was the first story. And I'm trying to just take a look at what I can show. I guess I can show this page. And so these colored pages in between are more the Miyanishi that we may know, the more developed Miyanishi. And so I will show them off here. Only bits and pieces. I can only show bits and pieces. But that first work that we went through, this one here, it was actually a winner of one of the Newcomer Awards in Com, the manga magazine started by Osamu Tezuka, and another Gekiga Prize by Comic in Comic Magazine, I think. So that's just some background to that. What else can I show? This is a story titled, I think, Attachment. So a lot of these are, you know, the usual Miyanishi, very sexual, a lot of nudity, and very poetic as well. So we move on to the second story of the Boyhood series. This is Beyond the Clouds, Perseus. This is the second work, and now we return to his early stage in his career. The same thing where I notice as well, you know, sometimes the proportions are a bit off, like this woman's neck seems detached from her body. So it's cool. Like, I think even though it's not my preferred stories from Miyanishi, it's cool seeing his start, what he did early on, how he was influenced by his mentor, Mori Masaki. So this one is about a woman, I think, who abandons her baby 10 years ago, and she leaves it to one of her relatives, or maybe her dad, to take care of. But when she revisits him, he doesn't know who she is. He has this pigeon named Perseus that is participating in like a pigeon race, I guess. But here we go, we've got the pigeon race. But the mother is quite sick as well, and coughing up blood. But we do have this last panel where she is running with the pigeons towards the end. And then we move to the last story of the Boyhood series. This one is called Fireworks Boy. We actually start off with a scene here with the like a near miss. on the road. Then we transition over to this boy visiting his grave. His mother's grave? No, his father's grave. His father's grave. His mother was also killed by a car crash after as well. And I think this is the scene here. This one was the most confusing work out of everything, because later on he, I guess, meets another woman who is attracted to him, and the afterwards said that the dream took place, the story took place in a dream. So confusing. Here we go, 1973 was when this story was made. Yeah, a bit confusing to be honest. And then the rest of the story, and here's the ending panel. The rest of the story goes back to the usual Miyanishi stuff. So to give an example of things, this chapter is showcasing sex in the snow. We've got another chapter that, man, it's hard to show anything, but this is cool. Love the details in here. We've got, I think this story is about a woman seeing or remembering her sister that she may have killed, quite possibly. We also have simple ones where it's a little boy discovering a woman drowning or drowning in a lake. That was like only 2 pages. We've got another story with some freaky stuff with guns. It's so hard to show anything. Also really love these panels where it's just drops of water or some other fluid, but empty panels, but still very, I don't know, just very nice to look at. Everything about Miyanishi is quite poetic. It's just unfortunate that I can't really show too much overall. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that can really show off. Everything else is kind of risque. So here's the afterword explaining each of the stories, or the background of the 3 early stories. And yeah, here you go. So that was Boyhood or Shonen Jidai by Miyanishi Keizo. So another Miyanishi work done. Still have a ton actually to read from him, but great stuff as always. Even though those early boyhood chapters I didn't like, it's still pretty interesting to experience. Now we come on to the last story of today. This one is called Hataraku Kappa, or The Working Kappa, by Sakabashira Imiri, who is such an addicting mangaka to read. Like all his artworks. Look at the color he has. It's so vibrant and bright. He loves cars as well. If you follow his Instagram, there's tons of artworks and little model cars as well. But essentially, this story is following our main character. So this is Anna, and this is her father. Her father seems to, just be a little frog-looking dude. But Anna is suffering from an illness and had to be put into a different job as a chef. But to support her father, she has to go out to do another job interview and get another job. So as she's going through the city, she finds herself in a chaotic adventure. She pretty much gets captured and sucked into this little, well, not little, but this giant submarine where these group of Kappa live and hunt in. And so pretty much she is taken in as a crew member. She becomes a chef there as well. And this story has actually been translated into Italian. There's an Italian edition by Star Comics. Not in English yet, but I always recommend getting some Sakabashira works, even if you can't understand it, because the art alone, the variety is so good. This is like she's with the Kappa, and this guy is like, maybe he's possessed by a parasite or something and starts attacking her. They start running away. They meet all these weird, wacky creatures and people, like this guy over here. They hitch a ride on giant fish. So it's crazy. This is one of my favorite parts as well. They're like eating in a restaurant in a tower, and then the towers, I guess, are kaiju. They start coming to life, and while they're eating, the towers are just chasing each other, which is pretty funny. It's so good. Anything about, and that whole sequence is, all of this is just double page spreads of just the towers running around fighting each other. That was pretty cool. What else do we have happen? There's like a roller coaster, I guess, that they go on everywhere. But towards the end, Anna does actually reunite with her father, which what happens over here? Should have been somewhere. Oh, I've got these cool dinosaurs as well. There we go. A reunion with her father, who also had to move to work a job. So everything's all good in the end, which is good. She's not taken away by the Kappa forever. So yeah, a very fun adventure manga with very creative monsters and landscape designs and all of that as well. So 2005, published by Seirin Kogeisha over here. So yeah, that was today's manga spotlight video with 3 recent reads of mine. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. It's also been a while since I've done a Miyanishi work. I think the last one I showed off was maybe what was the, I think I have it here actually. Showed off Esther, which over here. Esther, I think maybe that one was the last one I showed off. But I do still have maybe like 2 or 3 more Miyanishi works, so keep a lookout for those in the future. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.